Hey guys, tonight we're diving into one of those questions that keeps popping up, like that weird sock that always reappears in your laundry pile. Why didn't Jesus just say, flat out, I am God? No riddles, no parables, no poetic sidesteps, just those exact words. You stretch out under your blanket, the soft hum of your fan kicking in. Outside, the world winds down. But in your mind, we're about to rewind 2,000 years or so. Oh, and quick warning, you might not survive this journey unscathed, intellectually speaking. There's a chance your assumptions could get a little melted. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, where are you tuning in from tonight? Share your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing our little sleepy global village. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The question tugs at you as we drift into the dusty streets of ancient Judea. You're walking now, sandals whispering against packed earth. The marketplace hums around you, vendors hawking dates and figs, children darting between stalls. But beneath this everyday scene lies a simmering tension. Rome's eagle shadows every conversation. And religion? Oh, it's not a casual topic here. It's life or death. You overhear a bearded elder explaining the Shema to a wide-eyed boy. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. His voice trembles with reverence. And right there is your first clue. In this world, claiming to be God in the flesh would be like lighting a match in a room full of oil lamps. Historical fact, in first-century Jewish belief, God's oneness was absolute. Any human claiming divinity would be viewed not just as wrong, but as a dangerous blasphemer. And yet, Jesus walked this land, taught in these synagogues, healed with a touch, forgave sins, things reserved for God alone. It's like watching someone drawing an intricate design in the sand while pretending they're just doodling. The meaning is there for those with eyes to see. Now here's a quirky little detail. Aramaic, the everyday language Jesus spoke, didn't even have a casual, direct way to say, I am God. In the Greek philosophical sense, the very structure of thought was different. Scholarly debate? Oh, you bet. Some argue Jesus couldn't say those words plainly without being instantly misunderstood or executed. Others wonder if he chose indirectness to invite deeper engagement. The conversation is far from settled. You continue through the narrow lanes. The scent of baked bread mingles with the musk of the crowd. Overhead, the sun blazes mercilessly. You duck into the cool shadow of a stone archway. And as you pause, one thing becomes clear. Jesus wasn't dodging the issue out of fear. His entire mission danced along the razor's edge of provocation and revelation. He didn't just say things, he showed them. Lives transformed, eyes opened, waves stilled with a word. If he had simply declared, I am God, how many would have truly grasped the depth of that statement? Sometimes the boldest truths whisper rather than shout. You lean against the cool stone, heart slowed, mind racing. The question still hums, why didn't he say it exactly that way? But the streets call you onward. The story has just begun. You step back into the sunlit street, your mind turning over what you've just glimpsed. Around you, life bustles on, oblivious to your inner musings. You move with the crowd now, heading toward the heart of the city, where language, law, and unspoken dangers intertwine like roots beneath the soil. Picture this. You've got words, powerful, dangerous words, sitting on your tongue. But speaking them plainly could light a fuse that no one can snuff out. That was the world Jesus inhabited. The languages swirling through first-century Judea were a tangled mix. Aramaic on the streets, Hebrew in the synagogues, Greek in the commerce halls, Latin in the courts of Rome. Historical fact, each of these tongues carried different nuances about divinity. In Greek, declaring "I am God" echoed philosophical concepts of divinity that would likely misrepresent the Jewish understanding of Yahweh's utterly unique nature. Now, imagine Jesus standing before a mixed crowd. If he'd said it in Aramaic, the common folk might have been bewildered. In Hebrew, the religious elite would cry blasphemy instantly. In Greek, the Romans might have dismissed him as just another wandering mystic. You weave through a throng of merchants arguing over olive oil prices, catching stray phrases in different tongues. Language here isn't just about communication, it's about survival. And that's before we even touch culture. In this world, the sacred name of God, Yahweh, was spoken only in the temple, and even then with trembling reverence. To declare oneself as God using the exact words was an act loaded with theological and political dynamite. A peculiar side note here: some fringe teachers did try claiming divinity. The result? Swift trials, stoning, or crucifixion without further ado. Their movements vanished like mist. Scholarly debate. Many historians argue that Jesus navigated this landscape with deliberate subtlety. He wasn't hiding, he was communicating in ways his listeners could grasp without triggering immediate execution. Others counter that the gospel writers shaped his words this way after the fact. The scholarly ink on this question is still very wet. You pass a group of elders debating scripture in a shady courtyard. One gestures passionately, "No man can see God and live." You linger just long enough to catch the intensity in their eyes. This isn't abstract philosophy to them, it's life, law, covenant. Now imagine Jesus casually dropping "I am God" into that conversation. The silence would be deafening, right before the stones started flying. Instead, he spoke of the kingdom. He healed the broken. He forgave sins, an action that said more than any direct claim could. A little curiosity. There's an old rabbinic saying, "By their deeds you shall know them." Jesus seemed to embody this principle perfectly. You duck into a cool side street, the hum of debate fading behind you. The walls here are covered with faded graffiti, Roman soldiers' names, scratched prayers, crude jokes. And there, amid the everyday scrawl of humanity, you sense it. Words can reveal, but also distort. Jesus' mission wasn't about dropping a soundbite for history. It was about unveiling truth in ways hearts, not just ears, could receive. You take a deep breath, the air tinged with thyme and dust. The next turn of your journey awaits. And perhaps you think, some truths are too vast for exact words. You drift deeper into the winding streets. The crowd thins. A donkey brays somewhere nearby, the air shimmering with midday heat. Your feet crunch on sun-baked stones as your thoughts loop back. If Jesus didn't say, "I am God" outright, then how did he speak of himself? A hint of an answer waits just beyond the next corner. You follow the scent of roasting fish and fresh bread to a shaded courtyard, where a small group listens intently to a man seated beneath an olive tree. His voice carries that quiet authority, the kind that makes even casual onlookers lean in. He speaks in parables. Historical fact: Jesus' use of parables wasn't random. In first-century Jewish teaching, parables were a revered method for revealing deeper truths to those ready to hear, while keeping the unready at bay. You settle at the edge of the circle. The speaker's words dance. A sower and seeds, a mustard seed growing unseen, a shepherd seeking a lost sheep. They're simple images on the surface, yet each carries a cosmic weight. And then you notice it. Beneath the earthy metaphors, a pattern of indirect self-revelation. Scholarly debate. Many scholars point out that Jesus' parables often hint at his unique identity and mission without bluntly stating it. Was this strategy deliberate? A way to invite genuine faith rather than coerced allegiance? Or was it a narrative device added later? The debate hums on. Now, here's a quirky historical tidbit. Ancient Middle Eastern culture valued wisdom that unfolded slowly, like a scroll unrolling over time. Blunt proclamations were often seen as lacking depth or wisdom. And Jesus? He seemed to embody this cultural ideal perfectly. You sip cool water from a clay cup, eyes half closed. In this drowsy courtyard with cicadas buzzing, the method makes sense. A direct "I am God" might startle, alienate, even harden hearts. But a story? It seeps into the soul, working unseen. You remember an old parable. The kingdom of heaven is like leaven mixed into flour until all is leavened. Subtle, transformative. And that's exactly how Jesus' self-revelation worked. You rise and stretch, the sun now angling lower. The group disperses, their faces thoughtful. You follow the path uphill, feet crunching softly. And as you walk, you can't shake the feeling. Sometimes the most profound truths arrive not as thunderclaps, but as whispers carried on the breeze. A voice within stirs. He who has ears, let him hear. You smile. The journey presses on. You crest the hill just as the sky begins to soften with late afternoon light. Below, the city sprawls in layers of stone and shadow. From this vantage, it feels ancient, even to your modern eyes, timeless, as if the weight of every story still lingers in the air. And amid those stories, one phrase keeps echoing: the Son of Man. You wander down narrow steps, curiosity drawing you toward a small synagogue nestled between weathered walls. Inside, the air is cool, heavy with the scent of parchment and old cedar. Scrolls line the shelves, their edges worn by countless hands. A teacher's voice drifts from a corner. And behold, one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. Historical fact: the title Son of Man appears in the book of Daniel, describing a heavenly figure given authority and dominion by God himself. In Jesus' time, this title was loaded with divine connotations. You ease into a corner, listening. The words feel familiar. You've heard Jesus use this very title for himself. Now here's a strange little detail. In everyday Aramaic, Son of Man could simply mean human being. But in the prophetic and apocalyptic texts, it pointed to a cosmic figure, a bridge between heaven and earth. Layers upon layers. Scholarly debate. Some argue that Jesus used Son of Man to subtly claim this cosmic identity without sparking immediate revolt or blasphemy charges. Others suggest he was redefining the title itself. Either way, the ambiguity was intentional and powerful. You step back into the fading light, mind buzzing. Why not say, "I am God"? Perhaps because Son of Man invited listeners into a deeper, unfolding revelation. And it wasn't the only title he used. Son of God. I am. Yes, that last one catches in your thoughts like a thorn. One evening, facing a hostile crowd, Jesus said, "Before Abraham was, I am." Historical fact: I am echoes God's self-revelation to Moses at the burning bush. Ehyeh asher ehyeh. To utter it in this way was a bold, unmistakable claim to divinity. You lean against a sun-warmed wall, heart racing. The crowd's reaction was swift. They picked up stones. And there's your tension again. Jesus did say enough to reveal his identity, just not in the tidy modern soundbite we crave. A playful thought crosses your mind. Maybe ancient Judea needed a PR manager. But then again, would anyone's heart have been changed by a slogan alone? You chuckle softly. Truth isn't a billboard, it's a path. And step by step, the path continues. The city hums around you, shadows lengthening. You pull your cloak tighter, ready to follow wherever this story leads next. You move through the evening streets now, where lamplight flickers against ancient stone. The cool night air feels like a balm after the sun's relentless glare. But beneath this calm lies a storm, one that nearly swallowed Jesus whole. You turn a corner and find yourself at the edge of a bustling courtyard. Voices clash in heated debate. At the center stands a man, calm, composed, yet surrounded by a tide of hostility. You watch, heart quickening. Historical fact: Jesus faced multiple accusations of blasphemy during his ministry, particularly when he forgave sins or spoke in ways that implied divine authority. Under Jewish law, blasphemy was a capital offense. The crowd shouts, "You, being a man, make yourself God." There it is. They heard the claim, even if it wasn't in the exact words, "I am God." His actions, his implications spoke volumes. Scholarly debate. Some scholars argue that the religious leaders misunderstood or exaggerated Jesus' words to trap him. Others believe they understood perfectly well and feared the challenge he posed to their authority and understanding of God. You edge closer, barely breathing. Then Jesus speaks, not with panic, but with that same unsettling calm. "If I do not do the works of my Father, do not believe me. But if I do them, though you do not believe me, believe the works." A strange side note here. In ancient Jewish thought, deeds often held more weight than words. Jesus leaned into this, inviting belief based on what people saw and experienced. And oh, they saw plenty. Healings, exorcisms, authority over nature, the dead raised. Yet for the religious elite, this only deepened the threat. You glance at a nearby wall where an old Roman proclamation warns against unauthorized leaders stirring the masses. The political danger is palpable. Now, imagine if Jesus had outright declared, "I am God," in that courtyard. No need for a trial. They'd have dragged him away on the spot. His mission cut short before its time. Instead, he lets his words and works whisper a deeper truth, one that can't be unspoken. You linger as the crowd disperse in frustration. Jesus walks away, unscathed for now. And you're left with a new layer to the puzzle. Perhaps it wasn't about if he claimed divinity, but how he chose to do it. The path winds on. You follow, mind alight, as the stars begin to prick the velvet sky. The stars glitter overhead now as you walk, their cool brilliance a welcome contrast to the heat of the debates you've just witnessed. The city is quieter, fewer voices echo through the streets, but your mind buzzes louder than ever. You slip into a small garden, olive trees casting long shadows in the moonlight. Here, in the hush of night, another layer of understanding begins to unfold. You think back to those moments when Jesus said nothing. Historical fact: during his trial before both the Jewish council and the Roman governor, Jesus often chose silence or cryptic replies when asked directly about his identity. In the gospel accounts, he speaks only when the moment demands it. Otherwise, silence reigns. You imagine the scene: a stone chamber lit by oil lamps, tense faces. The high priest demands, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" And here, Jesus does answer, "I am." But at other moments, before Pilate or when pressed by hostile crowds, he offers enigmatic responses or says nothing at all. Scholarly debate. Some argue this silence was tactical, protecting his mission until the right moment. Others suggest it honored the ancient belief that divine mysteries shouldn't be cheapened by public spectacle or forced confession. Either way, the silence spoke louder than any shouted claim. Here's a curious historical tidbit. In many ancient cultures, silence was seen as a sign of deep wisdom or inner authority. The truly powerful didn't need to boast. They let others draw conclusions. You settle beneath an olive tree, the ground cool beneath you. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves. Why didn't Jesus simply declare, "I am God," at every turn? Perhaps because a shouted claim can be dismissed, but a life lived in divine authority, that invites awe, reflection, even transformation. You think back to modern times. How often the loudest voices online are the least trustworthy? Maybe wisdom knows when to speak and when to stay silent. You chuckle softly. If Jesus had had a PR consultant, they'd probably have pulled their hair out. Say it clearly, say it loud. But perhaps the subtle path was always the truer one. You rise, brushing dust from your cloak. The garden feels timeless, as if the weight of every word and every silence still lingers here. The stars beckon you onward. The story isn't finished yet, and neither is your understanding. You wander through the moonlit streets, the hush of the garden still clinging to your thoughts. Each step feels deliberate now, as if you're walking deeper into the heart of this mystery. A distant bell tolls the hour. The city slumbers, but your mind refuses to rest. You find yourself drawn toward an open plaza where a single voice breaks the stillness. An elder recounts a tale by the light of a flickering torch. You pause at the edge of the circle, curiosity pulling you in. The story? The coming of the Messiah. Historical fact. In first-century Judaism, expectations of the Messiah varied widely. Some awaited a warrior king, others a priestly figure, still others a heavenly being who would usher in God's reign. And Jesus? He embodied aspects of each, but also transcended them. His words and deeds forced his listeners to rethink their categories entirely. A curious aside, in some Jewish circles, it was believed that the Messiah would remain hidden until the appointed time, only gradually revealing his true identity. Sound familiar? Scholarly debate. Scholars still puzzle over how Jesus navigated these expectations. Did he intentionally reshape the concept of the Messiah? Was this a deliberate part of his mission, or a later interpretation by his followers? The scrolls of debate are still very much unrolled. You shift your weight, listening more intently. The elder speaks of Isaiah's suffering servant, one who would bear the sins of many. Your breath catches. Jesus often aligned his mission with this figure, subtly but unmistakably. Now imagine him declaring, "I am God," outright. The statement would short-circuit the deeper narrative he was weaving, a narrative meant to fulfill prophecy, not override it. You picture it, a carpenter's son from Nazareth, standing amid this plaza, shouting his divinity. The crowd would have either laughed or lynched him, not because he wasn't divine, but because the declaration wouldn't fit their sacred story. Instead, Jesus revealed himself through fulfillment, through action, through parable and prophecy. And bit by bit, those with eyes to see and ears to hear began to understand. A light wind stirs the flames, casting shifting shadows across the elder's face. His voice fades, but the resonance of his words lingers. You move on, the plaza falling behind you. The stars above feel closer now, as if the heavens themselves lean in, eager to hear this unfolding story. And within you, a quiet certainty grows. Sometimes the deepest truths must be discovered, not declared. The city sleeps more soundly now, but you walk on, guided by that insistent curiosity. The air is cooler, scented faintly with lavender and old stone. Your footsteps echo softly in the empty streets. And then, unexpectedly, you find yourself before a grand doorway. Above it, an inscription in Latin and Greek proclaims Praetorium, the Roman governor's palace. You hesitate only a moment before slipping inside. The vast hall is dim, shadows pooling in every corner. You stand at the edge of history, where Jesus once stood, bound and weary, facing the most powerful man in Judea, Pontius Pilate. Historical fact: during his trial before Pilate, Jesus was directly asked about his kingship and identity. His responses? Mysterious, layered, neither outright denial nor blunt confession. Pilate asks, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replies, "My kingdom is not of this world." And again, Pilate presses, "So you are a king?" Jesus answers, "You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born." You shiver. In a place where life and death hang on every word, Jesus chooses careful, enigmatic replies. Scholarly debate. Some argue that Jesus was using coded language to speak profound truths while avoiding a charge of sedition. Others suggest he was emphasizing a spiritual kingdom that transcended earthly power. The arguments swirl like smoke in this ancient hall. Here's a quirky side note. Roman governors often encountered so-called divine men from the provinces, miracle workers, mystics, prophets. Most were swiftly dismissed, but Pilate seems genuinely unnerved by Jesus, even declaring him innocent multiple times. You imagine the tension in this very room. If Jesus had simply said, "I am God," the political and religious firestorm would have consumed him instantly. No cross, no resurrection, no global faith movement. Just another failed rebel. But instead, he walked a narrow path, revealing truth to those with eyes to see while avoiding the traps of earthly power games. You glance around, half expecting the ghost of Pilate to pace the floor, wringing his hands. "What is truth?" he once asked. You smile wryly. Some questions echo through the centuries. Leaving the praetorium behind, you step once more into the night. The path Jesus chose wasn't about avoiding the truth. It was about revealing it in the way hearts could receive, then and now. And you follow still, drawing deeper into the unfolding mystery beneath the ancient stars. You pass beneath an archway, the stones worn smooth by countless footsteps. The first blush of dawn tinges the sky, and the city begins to stir. But you walk through the thinning shadows, mind tangled with the night's revelations. You find yourself in a small, simple courtyard, a place where early followers once gathered. Here, whispers of the risen Jesus first spread like wildfire. Historical fact: after the crucifixion, Jesus' followers boldly proclaimed his resurrection, and with it, his divine identity. The earliest Christian creeds, such as those found in Paul's letters, declare Jesus as Lord and Son of God. You close your eyes, hearing echoes of those ancient voices. Jesus is Lord. Not a timid claim, but a direct challenge to both Jewish and Roman authority. Here's an odd historical tidbit. In the Roman Empire, declaring Caesar is Lord was a political act of loyalty. Early Christians' refusal to say this, and their insistence that Jesus is Lord, put them in mortal danger. Scholarly debate. Some scholars argue that this bold declaration marked a shift, that the post-resurrection church elevated Jesus' status beyond what he might have explicitly claimed during his life. Others contend that his actions and words already pointed unmistakably to this divine identity. You open your eyes. The sun now paints the sky in hues of gold and rose. If Jesus had said, "I am God," in exactly those words during his ministry, would his followers' faith have been as transformative? Or was it the combination of his life, death, and resurrection that revealed the full truth? You smile at the thought. Faith is rarely born from slogans. It springs from encounter, from mystery, from a story that draws you in and won't let go. You think back to your own journey tonight, how each step revealed another layer. A shouted claim might have satisfied your curiosity for a moment, but this unfolding path stirs something deeper. And perhaps that's exactly why Jesus spoke as he did. A playful thought surfaces. If he had had Twitter, would he have posted, "I am God, #deal with it"? You chuckle. Somehow that feels wildly out of character. No, he chose the timeless medium of parable, prophecy, and profound presence. A message not just for one moment, but for all ages. You rise, the first rays of sunlight warming your face. The story isn't over. Not for you, not for the world. And as you step back into the waking city, one truth lingers like a gentle whisper. Sometimes the most powerful declarations are the ones you live, not the ones you shout. The morning stretches wide across the city now, each stone and street bathed in new light. You walk slowly, savoring the hush before the full bustle of the day begins. And yet, in your heart, the night's questions still echo. Why didn't Jesus say, "I am God," in those exact words? You find yourself drawn to a quiet portico where a handful of early followers once gathered. Their faith wasn't born from slogans or debates, but from encounters that changed their lives forever. Historical fact: within a generation of Jesus' death and resurrection, his followers worshipped him as divine, risking persecution and death. The earliest hymns and prayers, such as those quoted by Paul, speak of Jesus being in very nature God. You pause beneath the colonnade, imagining those first gatherings, voices raised in trembling joy, hearts burning with newfound hope. A curious aside, in some ancient inscriptions, Christian graffiti proclaims Jesus is God in crude yet heartfelt scrawls. The simplicity of those declarations contrasts sharply with the layered subtlety of Jesus' own words. Scholarly debate: did Jesus intend for his followers to proclaim him as God explicitly? Some scholars argue that his mission pointed beyond titles to transformative relationship with the divine. Others maintain that the full weight of his identity was only understood through the lens of the resurrection. You lean against a column, the cool stone grounding you. Perhaps Jesus' choice wasn't about caution or ambiguity. Perhaps it was about invitation, drawing each person to wrestle, to wonder, to encounter the truth for themselves. A final playful thought bubbles up. If life were a movie, would audiences demand a dramatic moment where Jesus stands atop a hill, lightning flashing, booming, "I am God"? You grin. Spectacle might win applause, but transformation asks more. You glance at the city stirring to life. Merchants open their stalls, children chase each other through the streets. And somewhere, in the rhythm of ordinary life, the extraordinary truth of Jesus continues to resonate. You step out into the sunlight, the journey inward still unfolding. For in the end, perhaps the reason Jesus didn't say those exact words is this: the deepest truths are meant to be discovered, lived, and shared, not shouted, but embraced in the heart. And as you walk on, you carry that truth, not as a soundbite, but a quiet, steady light. Now, as you settle deeper into your bed, let the soft hum of your surroundings wrap around you. The journey has been long tonight, through ancient streets, shadowed courtyards, and timeless questions. Feel your body grow heavier with each breath, the weight of the day melting away. In the gentle space between waking and sleep, hold this thought lightly. Some truths whisper rather than shout. They invite you to lean closer, to wonder, to awaken deeper parts of your soul. Just as the stars whispered their secrets above the ancient city, so too do they whisper now, softly, patiently. Let your breath slow, in and out. Each inhale drawing peace, each exhale releasing tension. Imagine yourself once more beneath the olive trees, the cool earth beneath you, the sky stretched wide and welcoming. No questions need answering here, no striving, only stillness. The story lingers, not as a puzzle to solve, but as a path to walk, slowly, gently. And with that, allow your thoughts to drift, your body to sink deeper, the quiet of the night to embrace you fully. You are safe, you are held, you are enough. Sleep now, dear traveler. The journey will continue, but for tonight, rest. Let the stars keep watch as you slip into dream.